Hey, what's up everybody? Coach Cody Hunter here, and I'm back today with another video for you. Now this time it is called Story Time. Now a couple of weeks ago I did a little video about my experience as a competitive CrossFitter, and I thought it'd be interesting for me today to talk to you a little bit about my experience with bodybuilding. Now I'm not going to call this competitive bodybuilding, although I did do one single competition. I wouldn't class myself as a competitive bodybuilder. It was purely done out of experimental factors. I really wanted to experience it so I could give my feedback on what it was like to do it and what I learned and really gain some experience as a coach and a trainer. So let's kick this bad boy off. Now I want to break this into some phases. I want to talk a little bit about like before the comp and what brought me to actually sign up for the competition, my journey in training throughout that, how it was actually competing on stage for the competition, what happened directly after that competition, and then at the end there, I'd like to revisit and discuss the reasons why I haven't chosen to do another one. So team, where did this all begin? Now, back in the day there in Seoul, South Korea, I owned this little PT studio. Now this PT studio was really successful. I've talked about this before. It was mostly boot camp training because PT was very little after they realized how fun the boot camp programs were. And during the stage, I thought to myself, you know what? I feel like competing in something. I might do a bodybuilding competition. And that was really how fast that thought was. That's really what came into my head. Now I said to my wife, could you please look online and book me in for the next bodybuilding contest? Well, whatever one I could get into. Now the one that was open that had some more room for me to get into was called Muscle Mania. Now, from the day that I signed up for Muscle Mania and the day that that show was on, I had exactly 12 weeks to prepare. So of course, I've been training for a long time, doing all sorts of training styles, but I hadn't been training for a bodybuilder. It was mostly boot camps, a bit of isolation stuff because I've always loved it, a bit of meathead action. But so basically, at that point, the only thing I could really do to prepare for that show was start my cutting phase. Now, to be honest, I really didn't know what to expect or how to approach this, so I jumped straight online onto one of my trusted websites at the time and still to this day, T-Nation. Now, tnation.com was a website that had lots of stuff on there. There'd be all this transformation stuff from people doing before and afters, this whole forum on it. There's articles from amazing coaches and bodybuilding coaches and trainers. There's everything you'd ever imagine in there. So I used that T-Nation as my coach. That tnation.com website was basically my coach for the entire phase of this bodybuilding competition. Like I said, I had 12 weeks to prepare. So in that time, I'm reading as many articles as I could. I'm talking with one of my friends, one of my Korean friends there who'd done some bodybuilding shows before, getting some advice from him. And basically I just went for it. Now the training was great. I really enjoyed it. I tried to do as many muscle groups as I could within the week. We trained really intense. I pulled in a friend of mine and I sort of made him sign up for the comp as well. So I had a training partner. So him and myself trained together all the time. We really packed in that training. Nutrition was one that just became the sort of robot style of eating, of course. So we were just eating, rice, chicken breast, boiled most of the time, and broccoli. Like basically 3 meals a day with some eggs as well. And that was sort of the whole routine. Now, when I got really intense on the cutting phase, I would say from about 8 to 6 weeks out, my routine was as follows every single day except for Sunday. I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning, drink a black coffee, go straight to the gym, and I would put a weight vest on, jump on the treadmill on an incline, and walk for 60 minutes. Now I'm there, I'm listening to podcasts and I'm listening to music and trying to get myself through it. Downstairs was actually a bar at the time, bar restaurant, and there would often be people still drinking from the night before when I arrived. You know who you are. Now, so you'd get through that. After that would happen, I'd shower up, get freshened up. I would drink a protein shake with some oatmeal in it, shake it up, drink it, eat it, prepare for my classes and start coaching from 5:30. Now I'd coach basically 4 classes, I think, 5 classes over that morning period until my afternoon break. When the afternoon break came along, I would lift weights, then I would coach again, and I would go home and be in bed by about 8 o'clock, 8:30 p.m. In Sundays, the only difference on the Sunday there was I'd have a massive cheat meal after my training or a little bit after my training in the day, which would be a burger, a piece of carrot cake, and a Heineken from one of my favorite burger restaurants at the time over there. So yeah, it was a ritual. That was my week. Every single week, like a robot. Lucky I had no kids because it really wasn't that of an interesting life. Didn't get social with any mates. Basically my wife just prepared food for me and just let me sleep and wake up early and keep doing it over and over and over again. So during that prep phase, I was so consistent with what was going on that by the time I reached, my final week of prep, I had already dropped about 12 kilograms. Now, I started off at about 100 and, about 103 kilo, which is pretty standard. And with cutting all that weight, I had to get under 90 anyway, because that was my weight class. And so once I added, I lost all the weight, and then once I added water control, etc., I was able to weigh in at like 89 kilos, which would have been the lightest I'd ever been since high school, since I was probably about 17 years old. So it was ridiculous. It was crazy. Again, all that water control, all that coaching and information was all taken from T Nation. Now, jumping on stage. So again, I've done all my own posing practice with some advice from a mate. I tried to work out how to do a posing routine. I had to really figure all that out by myself. I didn't really know how to do anything, so I did lots of video of myself. I did lots of trial and error, trying to figure everything out. And that was one of the most challenging parts of this whole thing, was actually learning how to pose and learning a routine. It was really difficult. That's one thing I would say if I went back and did it again, I would get a coach for, obviously, because it just ended up being you felt like a total newbie. You just had no idea where to start. So once that got put together and I was able to complete that part of it, the water control, then it was then we had to get some tan on. So I had to get some pro tan, this stuff is called, which is where you basically paint your body about 50 shades darker than what it is, and get that all prepped up and stained for being on the show. Now, I don't know what to do, so I shaved my entire body. My wife painted me the night before. I had to sleep on like top of a bloody old blanket because it was staining everything, and by the next morning it kind of soaked in and done its job, and we're ready for the show. Crazy. So I turn up to the show, we get on stage. In my weight class, thankfully in Korea, there are only 5 people, because that's quite a heavy weight class. In the under 75 kilo or under 80 kilo, there are so many numbers there. In the heavyweights, there's about 3. In my one, just under the heavyweights, there was about 5, and then there was the majority of everyone else. So we did this competition, posed it out, did all the good stuff, did my posing routine, which was very average. Some of the photos, you can see how clearly I just didn't really know how to work the angles or what to do, and got through it though, and had a huge support team from my Studio X Fitness gym at the time that was there, the whole cheerleading squad, and it just made it just fun. I was there purely for fun, really enjoyed it, having a good laugh, posing it out, screaming and yelling and being a complete idiot. It was the best. Then it came to announcing the winner of that competition, or our weight class, and I was lucky. I thought I did pretty well. I got second place, and it was awesome. It was one of those second places that I thought I'd really earned. I definitely didn't think I deserved first place. I did look all right compared in some areas, but my legs were just not up to par compared to the Korean bodybuilder that got first place. He had massive legs. I basically neglected them for so many years after all my knee injuries, and then just not doing enough work, obviously, to get back up to what everything else looked like. So that was basically, that was a bit of a shame in terms of my long-term goals of getting my legs big. I just hadn't done it. And so that was, there you go, that's what cost me first place, quite clearly actually, and would have been my posing routine as well, and other bits and pieces. But anyway, I was stoked with second place. I went off stage. One of the people that had been there supporting had an ice cold, or relatively cold, Steinlager pure beer for me to drink into. So I popped that open, drank it back, and just sort of enjoyed the moment. Remember, it's 12 weeks of just hard work and dedication. And that's the most dedicated I've been to any goal probably since, for so long. And I don't even know why I was so dedicated. I think there's a bit of fear there of letting everyone down if I stood on stage and I just didn't look good or prepared. But I really didn't quite understand why my commitment levels for that were so high. But they were, and it worked. And then after that comp, boy, did I enjoy myself. So we went straight to one of my favorite cafe restaurants at the time called TG Cafe. They had a Cody salad on the menu. That's how often I used to eat there when I was prepping. But the thing was, I didn't have one of those. Who's gonna have a Cody salad? All I had was this massive burger, fries, again, some kind of cake, I think there was a couple of beers thrown in there. I actually ate so much food that I went home and just lay on the bed and couldn't move, and I felt absolutely ill and disgusted and awful. So that was basically me, rested up, And I'm sure you can probably understand what the story is after that. There was very little dedication and work done to nutrition and training for quite a period of time after that. The come down, or the kind of feeling of being lost, is huge. And it's one of those prime examples of knowing that once you hit your goal, it is not the end. You must set the next one and the next one and the next one. It's like you get to that highest peak of where you are, the only view in the distance is the next peak that's higher. You can't just stop, which is what I did for a little while, and straight away you put weight back on, you lose your physique, you lose your discipline is another one, and you sort of go backwards quite a bit, and you find it really hard to get back on the horse to that same level again. So I mean, I found it quite, I suppose, almost a little bit damaging, because also you look at your photos, which you have them on file, you look at them all the time, and you sort of think, I may never get back to that condition ever again in my entire life, because you're sort of at your peak, right? So that's why, steroid use and things like that, for example, I just couldn't go near it, because I know that I'd get so addicted to the results, and I'd know that if I ever went off them, I just don't know if I'd ever be able to go off them, because you never want to be worse than what you were in those pictures. So it's it's kind of a really shitty feeling to look at them actually and be like, oh man, that's awesome. And to be honest, I don't really have a desire to look like I did on stage, but let's say 6 weeks out, about 6 weeks out from the competition, that was the kind of an ideal physique that I would love to keep. I just felt strong, and I didn't feel all depleted and tired and exhausted all the time. I actually felt quite strong and good, and of course you look good, so in my opinion, and so that would be somewhere, that would be a really nice goal to kind of have, but that's again probably weighing in at about 95 kilos, I reckon, about 95, which is quite light when I'm sitting at 100 and 111 odd right now. So whether that's a goal or not, I don't know, but so yeah, there you have it. I mean, I suppose coming off those comps, that's something just to consider, how hard it is to stay on that. You want to have the next goal. And because I was doing this to really understand bodybuilding, understand the experience for my clients and customers and everyone in the future, I didn't really do it with the intent of doing any others. I did it really just to have my experience. So if someone asked me questions about it, I could give them my honest opinion, how I thought that worked for me by actually doing one, and not just from anything I'd read or just making it up. So I found, and I've used that experience for many years. It's very, very useful. It's very, very helpful. Now, would I do it again? I mean, I've thought about it on and off for years. It's always in your mind. I think now that there's kids involved, obviously, as a dad, that the priorities are a lot different now. Is there if I get into that state, or that sort of, I suppose, commitment or unhealthy dedication it sort of became, what else is going to be sacrificed for that? What else would I put them on the back burner? Would be kids on the back burner, be experiences with friends and family. It could even be work commitments. There'd be all sorts of things that sort of have to get pushed back for me to get that into it. Although I do believe that there are some times there where I was CrossFitting and following, say, a paleo zone diet, which was a bit extreme at the time as well, but that might be for another video. But I do think that I had less time in training and less stress in my nutrition, but I got pretty close to that physique as well, I thought. I felt really, really good in that form, but I wasn't waking up at 3:30 in the morning or going to bed at 8:30. I still sort of had a bit of a regular life, but I was just being a bit more strict on everything else. So there is a way that I think I could do it better than the first time. That was very much a trial and error based on just my readings, etc. If I did decide to do something like that again, which, I mean, there's always something there, and I do feel like I want something to train for, some kind of purpose and something, but I think it'd be more of a competition, maybe, like some kind of competitive performance thing, not necessarily just getting shredded. I think I'm just too soft to do that right now. I just don't know if I'd be committed enough to put in those yards, but hey, I'm waffling on about it because I don't know. I'm terrified. I'm too much of a big sook to commit to it right now. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? So at this stage, obviously, haven't committed to anything like that because of just the time commitment, time away from family, sacrifice, cutting back on all the ice cold Coronas that I might have on a Friday evening that I really enjoy during the summer period here in New Zealand. It's about managing that I suppose, your goal and your desired outcome, and understanding Like, are you actually willing to do the work? So I know what the work is. Am I willing to do that to look look similar to that? And the answer to that, based off my behaviors right now and the amount of training I'm doing, is it obviously a no. I'd really need to take a good look at that and see if it was in line with what I wanted to do at this stage. I have, those of you that may know, I've just finished up a 90-day program actually called the Thunder Bros 90-Day Get Huge program. So I have, as you would have seen in some other videos, I have increased a bit of muscle mass, which has been I really haven't done that for many years, and I've put down a bit of fat, I've taken it down. Now would be a prime example, a prime time right now would be for me to get shredded. I'm at the prime spot for it. Training is a real good habit. Nutrition has been focused on a lot more than it was. And I've got the frame and the build and the muscle mass right now that if I did tweak everything up and train really, really hard, I'd probably get pretty shredded. But again, am I prepared to invest that time, effort, and energy into doing that? And probably just not yet. God, it's embarrassing saying that. Probably just not yet. I don't know. I got to figure it out. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough one. All right, team. So that's a bit of a story time about my experience with bodybuilding. If you have any questions about that at all, or you're considering doing a competition as a beginner, I know if those of you who have done them before have more experience than what I have, but if you've never done something like that before and you'd be considered doing it, let me know. Do you have any questions about it? Let me know if I can help you. All right, team, thank you again for tuning in. I hope you found some value in this video. If you did like it, smash that like button or hit the subscribe and comment below. Do whatever the heck you want. Again, team, thank you all for tuning in today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have an awesome day, night, evening, wherever you are, and we'll see you all again in the next one. My name is Cody Hunter, and I am out. Peace.